Hello everyone, how are you? Happy Tuesday everyone. Nice to have you here. Welcome to What's in the Glass digital beer stream for the second week. We're starting today and I would like to thank everyone that has been with me last week. So has been great. This little project is just about beer from my point of view, from the people that I know, the people in the industry. Then I was thinking it was good to be in touch with, and it was born again a couple of weeks ago, and it seems to go well. So we can keep going, and this week is going to be great. We're gonna have some great guests, and first of all, I just want to say thank you for one more time to everyone that is working right now in the industry. So the brewers, the people delivering the beer, the people filling up cases and boxes, and all the people that are working within the industry right now. Thank you very much for everyone. It's great. It's super to know that you make sure we all are drinking beers right now. We all be able to feel like at home, be able to feel like whatever happening outside, it's not going to touch us too much. So again, welcome to What's in the Glass. On Tuesday we normally do a beautiful thing called the coach stream. So the coach stream basically a half an hour of beer education program with some beer expert. And last week we had Natalia Watson, advanced cicerone and book writer, journalist, many different things. And this week we're going to be joined by another beer writer, and actually one of the most respected figure within the craft industry in London. And it's his name I'm gonna tell you in a second. And another important thing is the fact that this week is Mother Kelly's sponsored. So every week I'm trying to push and I'm trying to focus on a single bottle shop. This week it's a good friend of mine from Mother Kelly's. I worked for the company for a while and I know pretty much everyone in there. And if there is someone new, I'm trying to go and say hi to whoever is in there. And I can see they're watching now, so whoever is it, bye, hi, how you doing, ciao. And what I'm like to do is I'm drinking beers from a single style every week, and this week the style is lagers and pilsners. So it's a great week because we're having great people that are gonna talk about this type of beer, this style, and one of them is the guest that is gonna be with me in 2-3 minutes time, and his name is Dredge, and it's a legend. It's someone that know how to speak about beer in general and wrote many books, and he's also like a food and travel journalist, which make it even more interesting because he can give you like almost like a 360 degree opinion about a specific beer style, because beer style it's an interesting term, right? You go to a pub and you're ordering a beer, then you start to go in craft beer pubs or more like niche special type of places, and then you start to call the beer that you want by a name, by a style. And style, which represents something specific from a specific area made in a specific way. So this is the beauty of learning a language and learning a way to try to call what you need, and this is something that the brewers know very well because they're gonna brew a beer according to a specific style, or maybe they are creating a new style, creating a new way to interpret a specific historical style with the technology that is available in these days, or with some specific methods, or maybe create some hybrid between different style and different concepts. And I like to show to everyone also that I had to shave my head because they were growing too quick and too fast, and whoever knows me knows very well that I've been like 18, 19 years with this type of Eka, so don't be scared. Nothing happened. The world is still alive. Everything is good. Everything is beautiful. This is just the easiest way during pandemic to keep myself. And I want to say welcome to everyone. I see many friends, many guests, and someone is gonna talk in the next weeks. So thank you to everyone. And let me just give me 1 second and send over an invitation to Mark, which is gonna join us in a second. And I also mentioned that I'm gonna drink a Lost and Grounded IPL in this beautiful glass. So I'm really curious to see what Mark is gonna drink shortly. Hello.
Hey man.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Fantastic, man, fantastic. Nice to have you here.
Yeah, I made it.
Great. Have you been out from the house?
Oh yeah, I just had to cycle somewhere on some errands. Let me just sit down. Oh good.
Man, lucky you. I've been like locked in the flat for so long. I've been like out this morning for the first time and I was just like, whoa, what's going on in here? Crazy. Thank you to be here. Welcome to Digital Beer Street. And I was trying to say to the guys and what was happening, what we're drinking. So as I told you, I was going for the Lost and Grounded Random Scepter, and didn't have this beer in a long time. And what are you drinking?
So I've got a Braybrook Keller Lager.
I know that.
You can see that, yeah. I didn't even have to grab a glass, so I'm just going straight from the bottle.
Yeah, I like to make sure that the people see that it's Mother Kelly's week, so otherwise I can easily, just easy ways. And I was mentioning to the guys connected right now, as I can see already, around 20, beer style, right? What are them? Why are we talking about beer style? What's the point?
I think it just helps people categorize things, It helps you understand maybe what you're going to expect more than anything. If someone just says, here's a beer, it's like, well, okay, great, but what is it? What does it taste like? What does it look like? And I think there's this constant need or want to understand what we're going to consume. Right. I think it probably comes from that.
But another point is, who made this style? Who made the name for the style? How, when these things happen, it's like, is someone waking up one day just being like, this is what we're going to call this beer? Or there is a story behind the styles and everything?
Yeah, well, so many come from history, don't they? So many have this longevity to them, which I think is really important. Certainly the most prominent beer styles. And there's so much potential story, so much potential history with particularly the most well-known, porters, stouts, India Pale Ales, beers like this. They've got this great long stories to them.
So basically, you can almost like try to find what are the stories in a specific geographical area or in a specific time of history just by a specific beer style, right? So you mentioned porter and stouts.
Definitely. And then it's kind of how we can understand a lot of the world in a way, and technologies and things like that through beer. Or maybe that's the wrong way to look at it. We can understand lots of the world through the beers which come out at the other end. We couldn't have had bright golden lagers made in 2 weeks in the 1700s. It physically wasn't possible.
Right.
We wouldn't have had these hazy, juicy IPAs in the 1840s because the way that they brewed beer then was so different to how they brewed it now. And the ways of consumption were so different. The technologies, everything was just completely different. So I think there's this huge overlap between beer types, beer styles, and ways of drinking. And even things like how diet play an important role and have an important change in what we were drinking. Historically, I've done a lot of work with the lager book that I wrote. I looked at a lot of Bavaria. So when you're looking at Bavaria in the 1800s, beer is the everyday drink, as it was in most places. But the everyday diet for the working man there was basically potatoes and bread. And it was heavy boiled potatoes and it was heavy, like German dense bread. Like, that's not delicious. it's not necessarily that nourishing either. But you put a beer on the side of it, and the beer becomes like a seasoning almost. It becomes like a condiment. It's almost like dipping your bread in barbecue sauce or something,
Yes.
you know? And 200 calories or 500 calories of beer is pretty much, more enjoyable than 500 calories of potatoes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So you had this change. And then when you jump to American history, when they start to drink lager, or when lager got to America, the Americans didn't like it. They didn't want it because their diet was so heavy in pork that having like a rich, sweet beer with it just didn't work. They wanted whiskey because that whiskey cut through all the pork fat.
Oh, wow. Yeah, makes sense.
As soon as their diet changed, like 50 years later into like 1860s, 1870s, they needed something more refreshing and something that they could drink all the time. So the beer in their glass changed.
Wow.
Or the
So
drink in their glass changed.
exactly, like for me is almost like overwhelming, the idea that basically you can go in a shop or in a pub or in a really good craft beer bar in these days and being able to find a representation of historical and geographical styles or like way to understand and interpret what beer is, just by having a look at the menu. It's unbelievable. And it's as you were saying, like you couldn't do some styles back in the days, but probably people wouldn't even be able to understand what you were giving to them and why you were offering these styles, right?
Yeah, like beer was beer. Like there wasn't variety. Like if you lived in London in the 1700s, early 1800s, you just had beer.
Wow.
You wouldn't go into a bar and maybe you could have some choice, maybe between 2 or 3 or 4 beers, but you certainly couldn't have picked 20 different beers, 50 different beers. You wouldn't have had an option of drinking, a beer from Scotland and a couple from Belgium and some from, Germany. That wasn't a thing.
Right.
Yeah, every region grew up with certain tastes of beer, but that was through necessity. Beer was matured in wooden barrels, was brewed in wooden barrels, matured in wooden barrels, drunk from wooden barrels. It didn't travel well. It wasn't made to travel well. It took a long time before beer was actually able to travel properly.
Properly. Yeah, of course.
Like scientific developments and evolutions for it to do that successfully.
And I like to think about as well, all different specific techniques to brew beer. Like it was very fascinating to read, and then along 12 months, beers was possible to be made on specific months, and then ready to drink after a while. When now we can basically have everything we want, wherever we want, in any time we want. So would you, for example, offer as an experience to drinkers to I don't know, like drink specific style on a specific time, like on a specific time of the year, instead of drinking everything every time?
I think people would naturally go that way with certain beer styles anyway. We've certainly lost a lot of seasonality when it comes to beer, certainly in terms of what's brewed and when.
Right.
But in a way that almost never existed anyway. There are very few actual seasonal beer styles and seasonal beer developments. And if you did have them, they were normally linked to an occasion, a festival, for example, Oktoberfest beer.
Yeah, exactly.
Things like that. They were linked to something very specific rather than them being this much more general product.
100%. And I notice as well, like your body needs or prefer to go for some specific style when it's warmer or when it's colder, just by the characteristic of the style itself. And I'm thinking imperial stouts rather than barley wines. Definitely something that you don't want around the 15th of August anyway.
Yeah.
But then again, like even like in a city of like London, you want to have available everything because you have all sorts of food available as well. and you want to make sure you can find a right comparison for every single, different dish you have in front of you. I'm sure you probably do the same, right?
Yeah, but this is a modern luxury.
Yeah.
We have this today. We didn't have this 100 years ago. Like, this is something that's very much from right now. We have this abundance of wanting, overabundance of everything, and this ability to have whatever we want whenever we want it.
Wow.
So we have this brilliant time where we can have a saison brewed anywhere in the world. We could find it in a bottle shop, and we could have it with food from anywhere in the world. It doesn't matter what it is. You could have beans on toast, or you could go and make some elaborate Thai dish, some Argentinian dish. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So, we can have whatever we want whenever we want it from wherever in the world, which is a massive difference to how it would have been, historically.
Yeah, I like to see someone asking like DeLuca Man about bitter styles nowadays. And thanks for the question. And again, I never had bitters before 2012, just because I'm from Tuscany, Italy. I just had Belgian beers from the biggest producers until I was living there, and then when I moved a bit further around Italy, I found again big Belgian bubbles, big Irish bubbles, and big German bubbles in terms of in style of beers and way to understand beers. And I was thinking like, hold on a second, I'm in this pub and I don't understand what's going on. Some people just like pushing the tap somehow, and I never saw this beer. And then someone told me, just order the right food and then try the beer. You will understand it.
Yeah, and beer and food work together and they grow up together. If you start having English pub food with, like classic English pub food with Belgian saison, like they don't belong together. They're not there.
No.
That's not what you get. So you have this natural link between cuisine and beer styles. If you're drinking like the classic things of that area. And I love that. For me, I love to travel and drink beer. To me, it's one of my great pleasures. It's one of the things I love to do more than anything else, because you can learn so much about other cultures. You can learn about, eating and drinking is universal.
Yeah.
So even if I'm in a country where I don't understand the language or I don't really know what's going on, the moment of sitting down to have a beer or to have a drink or to have some food is a universal thing. So you can learn so much about different cultures from that environment. It's my lens almost to understand the world through. The bottom of this beer glass becomes my binoculars into looking into different cultures.
Wow.
And by traveling, we get to experience this. If you go to Cologne and you drink Kolsch, and then you go to Düsseldorf and you drink Altbier, then you go to drink Munich and you have a Dunkel, then you go to Prague and you have a Pilsner. You're hopping around all these cities, and the act of drinking and eating is the same, but what you're drinking and eating is different, and the way that you do it, is different. It feels different. It smells different. It looks different, and I love that. I love that diversity that we can have with natural local beer styles.
Wow, yeah, and I love that. Like, this is almost like beer poetry. We're here for make people emotional, and we want to give the people emotions, and you as a writer, I'm sure this is a big part of it, and you actually nailed the point. You want to almost like lift beer as a language, and a universal language. You don't need to understand anymore the words and the vocabulary and a specific culture. You have the key to enter into that mini culture, and this is great. And I saw some question from the guys at Aura Brewing. They were asking, what is your favorite contemporary beer style? Which is an interesting question, because you could call any beer style contemporary, because there are some contemporary examples of that specific style.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know how I would answer that. And what your point is really true. Like, I'm drinking this Braybrook, which is a contemporary brew, but it's also incredibly classic. Like, this is a really typical regional beer of Upper Franconia.
Yep.
It's the everyday beer there. It's, you know, it's mother's milk there. But here, this is very unusual, and it's contemporary in a way that it's different. But yeah, as for contemporaries, oh, that's a really good question.
Oh,
I really like
IPL.
the evolution of lager. Like, I love IPL, exactly. That's where I was going to go. I love how you can take this base of clean, well-made, balanced lager and make it exciting by changing the hop profile. I really like that. That's definitely something which continues to excite me and interest me. So yeah, I'll go there. That's an easy first one. Or Italian Pilsner, you know, that's another good example. Like, lagers modernized and made into something new.
I'm really passionate about these, you know, lager from Birrificio Italiano. It's called Tipo Pils.
Yeah.
That's been like the first craft I ever had back at home. And I was just like, whoa, why there are some Americans talking about this beer? And why there are American breweries then based, you know, this style of beer as a way to go. I was just like, whoa, incredible. And
yeah, that's a great beer. I love that beer.
I'm glad. I see affinity.
It made a new style. And I think this is, if we're talking about beer styles, this is a really exciting, interesting beer because it made something new. So it took inspiration from England and it took inspiration from Germany and it brought it to a new market in Italy.
Right.
So a beer market which is, well, a market which isn't naturally a beer drinking culture, or certainly not 25 years ago. It was there, but it wasn't the culture. It certainly wasn't the same culture as a wine culture. And it introduced this brand new type of beer that was inspired by different processes and different flavors. And it created a new style. And maybe it took a while, but now this style is brewed all around the world. The Italian Pilsner is a world style now.
Yeah,
and
it's incredible. You're right. It's this is what I like. I like the fact that unless, for example, with the, you know, orthodoxy that you have with wine and the wine word, you can still, in a way, trying at least to create something new and claim it as a real new thing that it's coming from maybe not your expected areas, maybe somewhere really, really far. And you know, there are interesting things like when you speak about lagers to people and you tell them lager can be black, lager can be smoky, lager can be 10%, and people watch you like, what do you mean? That's not possible. And you tell them, yeah, Brooklyn lager is actually darker than you know, your average pale ale, which is almost crazy, right? In these days, yeah. It's insane. Yeah. And again, I mean, what do you think? What do you think it could be like a modern approach in beer? Like, do you see beer styles still being prominent in the way that we understand and talk about beer? Or do you think one day we will just talk about hops rather than malts, rather than water, rather than region?
I think styles will continue to be important because I think it's the way that we differentiate beers and we understand beers. I think there are several breweries who try to talk about beers without naming styles.
Right.
So they might talk about its flavor or its profile, but I find it really confusing. I know a good amount about beer, but I still find it confusing if you just say it's 5% and it's pale and it's got American hops in. So, well, okay, it's probably an American pale ale, but is it actually an American pale ale? Like, I want it to be named. I want them to say this is that.
Right.
So no, I think that styles are important. One thing which I think is interesting or relevant is the emergence of new beer styles.
Mm.
We're in a place in beer at the moment which is very much driven by innovation. And while there seems this sort of great breadth of choice, I think in reality, there isn't actually that much diversity in what we're choosing from. everything is a hazy pale ale or a hazy IPA. There might be 10 different ones, but they're all the same, essentially. And that's a style that's come out of nowhere. If you'd have said to me 5 years ago, do you think that hazy 8% double IPAs that look and taste like this will be popular? I would have said absolutely not. No way. So the beer market is very, very fluid, literally, very much always in evolution. But it takes a bit of time for those evolutions to actually sort of round themselves out. You know, they don't evolve perfectly immediately. They take time. They take a lot of time to get things wrong. You know, you try too much, you throw in too much lactose, which doesn't belong in any beer anyway, but they settle themselves out eventually. And they get to this point where they form into a new style. But along the way, there are all these iterations to the side, which don't necessarily become a more concrete thing. You know, like for me, the prevalence of ice cream, you know, lactose IPAs, I think that's going to be one of those things which is hopefully just this novelty that's popped in and out for a year or two, but it's going to disappear because to me, it just doesn't work. That's the personal preference. A lot of people will love it.
Yeah.
Kind of like sour, in a way, like sour IPAs and some of these more like super sweet IPAs with flavors and adjunct in, like pastry IPA sort of thing. I think they will fall away. But certain styles, they manage to gain a sort of longevity to them. They become more and more people brew them more and more commonly, and that becomes a thing. It becomes a style.
And do you think breweries have a necessity to explore fully all of these unusual, or I can say like contemporary approach to beer styles to renew themselves? Or do you think it's just like an exercise of trying to be cool?
You know, I think the beer market right now is difficult. It's challenging. If I opened a brewery, I'd want to make a brilliant lager and a brilliant IPA. And if I nailed those, I'd be happy. And I'd probably want a good saison as well, or a triple.
Right.
But most people don't want that. And the bottle shop on the corner, it doesn't want those because they had them last week. They're like, well, what's new? What's new? What have you got next? What have you got next? So in a way, the beer market itself is I don't know, it's messing itself up because it always wants new and it always wants what's next, which then drives brewers to have to be not necessarily innovative, but have to do new things.
Yeah.
They have to try new stuff. They have to brew new recipes. They have to have evolutions because people want what they haven't had before. And that's a challenging situation because a lot of brewers probably don't want to do that. A lot of brewers probably don't want to make, you know, hazy IPAs with fruit juice in them and other flavorings. But they kind of have to now because that's what the market demands. So you've got this consumer demand influencing what brewers are choosing to make, which is a difficult place to be in the beer market because if brewers are having to make something because they think that's what the market needs or wants, they're not necessarily doing it because they love that beer style.
Good point. I almost seen the privilege for breweries, even like new or young breweries, to being able to brew a classic style. It comes after you brew 10, 15, 20 different examples of contemporary beer styles. Almost like, okay, I know how to do pastry stouts and New England IPAs. I can brew a pale ale. And I remember very well the time that a couple of people mentioned about the Brut IPA.
Yeah.
Where are they?
Exactly. It's a good example of one of those styles that it popped up. It had this brief burst of excitement, and there were great ones. There still are great ones. But it's one of those ones which hasn't, for some reason, hasn't had longevity, whereas others have. And it's hard to understand, but I've increasingly found myself more excited by breweries making classic styles. And this probably ties in quite nicely with the idea of beer styles, is that if you're trying to make a classic version of, say, a Belgian triple, you can compare it against actual classics. You've got a point of reference to it. there is no point of reference to a pastry stout. The point of reference to a pastry stout is, do you drink it and go, holy shit, it tastes like dessert?
Yes.
Like, that's your point of reference. Does it make you go, fuck, yeah? Like, if it does, then you've made a good one. But with a triple, with a Helles, with a Saison, with a Lambic or Gers style beer, there are like textbook classics that you can be compared against.
Mm.
I like that. You know, for me, that shows the skill of a brewer more than them, you know, smashing a beer full of flavorings or over hopping a beer.
Good point. Very good point. I like this is my personal way to understand beer. I've been into the music. I was a music maniac before being a beer enthusiast, which is a good place to be, because
Maniac enthusiast.
you know I can't say expert, because especially if I'm sharing the screen with you, I won't do that. But you know, it's a very safe obsession, because it's all for good, and that's what makes me feel great. But comparison, like, give a comparison between the music and the beer world, for example. I always heard this comment from people saying, why do I have to listen a band which is, sounds like The Clash if I can listen The Clash?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, why do I have to drink a lager if I can have Augustina Helles? Which is fine in a way, but then in the other hand, I'm like, because you're curious, because you're human.
Yeah.
Because there are people trying to do things in a very special or unique or different way, which is could give you resemble of, yeah, that style. But maybe because it's brewed here, it could be even more sexy. Don't know.
But if you think about it in terms of like live music, like, you might really love the Beatles, but you can't go see the Beatles live anymore. You know, you might really love Augustina Helles, but the best place to drink that is in a beer garden in Bavaria. I'm in a flat in East London. That's a different place. You know, how can I have a similar experience or a similar taste in drink, but maybe with something that's more local, because I want to buy a local beer. So yeah, it's an interesting analogy, and they probably need to think about that music analogy more. But yeah,
you nail it, because you definitely create the gap, which is a concrete, geographical, a timing gap, and if someone will ask me again the same question, I will reply to them in the way that you just say. I'll be like, yeah, but hey, you have to do what you can do right now, otherwise you're going to have a surrogate of experience instead of the real next experience. Oh man, this is great. And I would love to go hours on this, because I can tell we can speak for long time. and I'm at this stage, like when it's like around 6:30, I'm always asked a question out there, because Mother Kelly's the beer sponsor for the week can send a prize as beer, in terms of beer, to whoever replied to answer to this question in the right way. And the question is very simple, guys. Do you know Mark about what style wrote a book recently? If you're gonna reply there in the comment in the right way, you can win a beer. So please, guys, just reply in the right way. And Mark has been the stream most popular so far. We had so many people watching us, which is great. And you gave us so many good, tip and way, and even just like an inspiration of how think about beer and beer styles in general, which is great. And you can tell from how many people reply there has been great.
People know that's good.
It's great, seriously. And I want to thank you, and I want to remind to everyone, guys, please, if you have a chance, check it out. Dredge, Mark Dredge website, and buy the book, because it's great if you want to learn about the most prominent beer style in the universe so far.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. No, I've had fun. It's been a good chat.
Great. And make sure we're going to meet in East London because that's where I'm spending most of my time as well.
Well, I can see London Fields Brewery from, pretty much from my flat. So
Yeah.
I'm near.
Beer with you back soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Take care. All the best.
Thank you, man. Thanks a lot.
Stay safe.
Thanks
Take
everyone for watching.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one. Bye-bye. Be safe.
Cheers.